This is one of our kimonos that we have in our collection, and it is silk and made of made with a silk that's been shibori dyed, so it was resist dye. It's really beautiful, and I'm going to show you a few details of this kimono. So we have the overband here, a band, the front neckband that comes all the way down to here. We have the inside. This is an unlined kimono. You can see the really wide seam allowances. This seam allowance is actually enclosed within the seam, and you can see that it's been hand sewn, really basted down. You can also see the really wide seam allowance here. This is very typical of kimono, to have these wide seam allowances that are then hand basted with really fine stitches to the sides. And these wide seam allowances allow the fabric to not have to be cut, so that it's got selvage edge pretty much everywhere, and then it can be adjusted for different wearers, or to take apart and wash or repair or add new panels to. So this is just a really pretty example. The other thing about kimonos is that they have a back seam line, so right down the middle, and there is no seam at the shoulder. So each front and back piece is one panel. So again, here's the front goes to the back goes to the front, and there's a seam line just on the back. This is the inside of that kimono, and the yoke is shaped. This is not normally what you see. Normally you see them straight across. This one's shaped, and then the back seam has been hand stitched, you can see, and the selvage just stitched again together, and that is all you have. Here's another kimono in our collection. This one is also silk, but it has been fully lined, and the neckband and is made of cotton, as well as the inside, so you can see that. This has also been dyed with resist dye. You can see that very tightly, this was really tightly bound to get this yellow dye here, and then all these little squares or diamonds have also been resist dyed. Really beautiful. This is incredibly soft, silky material. And yes, this has the sleeve opening that comes all the way down. Full sleeve is open, and then a little bit on the inside here. And this is yeah, fully lined. The bottom has a different hem, and you can see it's just been very finely hand basted together as well. Here is another example of a kimono we have in our collection. This is a cotton yukata, or informal kimono, and this one has been made with a cotton ikat that has been, so all the fibers were dyed with resist dyes and then woven to create this pattern. It is very difficult and intricate, but it's just gorgeous. I'll give you a little bit more of a close-up of that ikat. Now we'll look at the inside back of this kimono. The back seam has been bound, finished with a fine silk. This neck has been padded, and here's some of the extra fabric that's sticking out of the bottom. But the neckband has the neckband and then an overband, which goes down to here. You can see where that has been sewn in, but this is all padded. The seams down below, here's the sleeve. The seams below were were not, they were sewn with the selvage and are wide, but were not sewn all to the kimono as the other one we saw was. But you can see the way they shape the bottom of the sleeve to get that curve. I'll show you really quickly. It's really, instead of cutting the curve, they leave the fabric in a square, and they, this one was made, and many of them that I've seen are made this way. It's just gathered into a little, just gathered into this little curve, so that all the corners just kind of squished up together, made into 4 or 5 gathers to make that curve. Here's another kimono from our collection. This one is silk and hand painted. This, again, there's the band, the over band, which comes to here, and then the inside is lined just at the band area, so you can see that. I'm going to give you a close-up of the hand-painted flowers that are just really beautiful, and then all the way down here where it's been dyed or over-dyed, and these beautiful flowers down here as well. And then I'll show you the inside. So the inside of this kimono is also very nice. You can see that it has a really long yoke that has been folded up and then hand basted in. The center back seam is narrow and has been covered in silk. It's been bound in a silk binding. And the side seams, as normal, are very wide and have been hand basted with blind stitch to the side of the kimono. Here is the sleeve seam where it's open. It's open all the way to the bottom of the sleeve, and it's been hand basted again, closed. And I'll show you the curve. This is you can see it a little better on this one. The way that they make the curve is to cut the fabric square again, not cutting a not cutting a curve, and then just finding these stitches and little tiny gathers to create the curve that's in the corner of the sleeve. So again, this is just a really beautiful example. This kimono is a little bit more of a formal kimono. You can tell because the sleeves are very long. This is made of silk. It is hand painted with all those flowers, and it's a bit longer. These longer kimonos would be tied with an obi and would be pulled up quite a bit to get the kimono off the floor, off the ground. It would drag a little bit, but that's the obi pulls it up, and then the top sort of sags over or bags a bit, and that's how it's worn. And I'll show you some of the close-up of these flowers. Really beautiful. There's hand embroidery where some of these pistils are, and some satin stitching here and here, and then some knots where the pistils are. So this is really, really beautiful. That's silk thread, satin stitched. And this is fully lined. You can see it's fully lined. Painted also on the inside. And a really gorgeous example. Also show you that it is hand basted through here. This neckband can be taken off to be washed. And a gorgeous, gorgeous kimono. And finally, I will show you the Folkwear sample kimono. This is a yukata. Again, you can see it's informal. It's a little shorter. The sleeves are shorter, and it's made of cotton. And this kimono has these emblems, which in tradition have symbolized like family symbols, last names, and then there is this really pretty sashiko embroidery. It's a traditional Japanese embroidery style with these running stitches. The pattern shows you how to do this and has the how to do these emblems as well as how to do the sashiko with the patterns. This one also has the sashiko stitching at the bottom, across the front, all the way to the back. And there is a neckband on the inside. You can see the large seam allowances for the side seam, and and you can see the side seam is also hand basted, blend stitched down. Quite large seam allowances, very traditional. And we'll get a look at the back as well. Here is the back of this kimono. The sashiko stitching in the bottom is really beautiful. And there's another emblem at the top, center back. It's been hand embroidered. This is the inside of the Folkwear sample kimono. The yoke, you can see, is fairly short. The seam allowance has been pressed open and has been blind stitched to the kimono. You can see the inside of the sashiko stitching here, and the sleeve is open all the way down. And the Folkwear pattern, we do cut the curve. Now you may wonder why cut the curve, why not cut the curve, why would traditional Japanese kimonos have these large seam allowances? But generally, traditionally Japanese fabric was woven on looms that were about 13 inches wide. So the panels were always 13 inches wide, and you wouldn't want to cut a fabric that was hand woven. That's a special fabric. You hate to waste any of it. So that was why there were no curves. Everything is cut and just sewn as is, rather than cutting away part of the garment to make it fit a smaller person. You don't cut the fabric, you just sew the fabric with these wide seam allowances, or and you wouldn't cut the curve in the sleeve. You would just leave it square and use it that way. Again, you can see these really wide seam allowances at the side. It's a traditional way that the kimono is made, so that you can preserve all that wonderful hand-woven fabric.